Hello, welcome to the channel and thanks for watching. So this one is a Necromunda Ash Waste unboxing, builds and models and my thoughts. So here's some of the models that are in the set that are already built. You can see it on the gaming mat here. I will put the timestamps now for where the different parts of this build are, because it's a very long video. If you want to skip straight to building the models or my final thoughts, or just seeing that, you can do that with the timestamps and just, scroll to the end to get what you are. If you want to listen to me waffle for half an hour, 40 minutes through my opening of the box, go ahead. It is my very first opinions. I do get a little bit giddy at points, so bear with me, but I do hope you stick around and enjoy it. Let's get into this box. This is a long awaited box. Obviously it's been a couple of years since this has been initially announced, I think, and there's been a lot more hype in the last few months. But if you've been into Necromunda for as long as I have, first edition, you're talking 95, 96 that they started talking about Confrontation as it was, then Necromunda, and then 97 I think the first box was out, and that's obviously how long I've been playing Necromunda for. Far too long a time. Ash Waste has always been a thing that's been mentioned, so definitely a very long awaited box. And it's a heavy one. That's the first thing you note. This is a massive, chunky, heavy box. Lots of contents you can see in there. Ash Waste Nomads, a little bit of description, and Gang as a House Warlock with rebreathers and things on there. So full contents list, obviously the scenery, the two gangs, rule books and things like that, and we'll really get into how we're doing it. Now it's really quite good actually that they're not shrink wrapping the whole thing anymore, which I know it's only a little thing, but it's certainly a slight nod to the ecological side, and we should be not wasting plastic, etc. So that's a slight improvement, although there's going to be a lot of probably wasted plastic in here, I would imagine. So let's slide into that like the new box lift. So what we'll do is we'll go through obviously the contents, have a quick run through the rule book, and then I do plan to get this assembled, and then we can try and show you how easy or difficult that is. Wow, that is a lot of plastic, and these buildings are quite a lot bigger than I thought they were going to be. So it's quite a decent, few inches across there. Now, I haven't, just to sort of preface this, I'll go through it, I haven't actually seen any videos or anything going through the contents of this. I've seen the stuff on Warhammer community site and I've had a read, but my knowledge of what is in this box and what the rules are is incredibly limited, so this is really a first look. Obviously keep an eye on the channel for anything that we're going to do in the future with this, obviously, although it will be held back a bit, because if you've watched the channel a lot, I'm doing a lot of Death Guard stuff at the moment, but Necromunda service will resume fairly soon, because as I've said many a time, it is my most played game over the last few years. So that's a big chunky set of what looks like the roofs and the walls for the buildings, and these are very nice, kind of what look like the support struts and the pillars that are going to hold the buildings up. So actually they're a lot chunkier than they do look on the photos when you see them, so very nice. And that's 3 bases. There must be another roof buried somewhere in here. So that's 3 sprues of the bases of the buildings and the walls, so very nice. Let's look for that other sprue there. Generic, obviously Necromunda, that's a repetition of the same sprue for the barricades and stuff. Now, that's a bit weird. Now, that look, nice sprue, don't get me wrong, this is a very nice sprue, like it. Doesn't seem ash wasted though, because this is not the building type that is. That's a little lazy, although I do love the sprues. I'm not saying this is bad scenery, this is good scenery. Not ash wasted though, disappointingly so, I would say. Now here, it actually strikes me a little bit like you could mix this together with the Underhive market, that kind of thing, because this is some sort of sunscreen shield. If you look at building that, and that has vibes of the Underhive market, as do some of these, look like the power packs and radios and things. That's a very, very nice sprue. And then this here looks like some sort of pile of equipment. It looks like it's going to get stuck on the side of the building. So that's a very nice sprue, and obviously in keeping with the ash waste that we've got. So we'll stick that to one side. Another 2 identical sprues of pieces. So again, it's pretty good. Just support struts. What I think are the obviously deckings for the bridges that I think you get. All those pieces there. So again, be interested to see how this builds up. Now I am getting concerned that there should be more than 2 of that sprue. Now I might be completely wrong and jumping to conclusions, but it appears that there's 3 sets of bases, or the bottoms of the buildings, but only 2 roofs. So let's see if that is the case, or whether I've got a mispicked box or just making things up. Now, sprues for the actual gangs. So these are the Ash Waste Nomads, the beetle creatures that you get, which the name escapes me at the moment. I'm not going to stop to have a look. They look like nice sprues actually. Lots of pieces on these, so there's quite a lot of detail and depth on them, and I'm going to build them after this unboxing, so I'll give you the feedback on how the sprues were to actually handle and work with once I've assembled them. 2 sprues of the Ashwaste Nomads, which I really like how Necromunda do that. I always appreciate it. I think it's great because all these parts you get on the sprues, it means you can vary weaponry, and if you want you could magnetize for all the options and those kind of things. I've done a video on magnetizing for all the options with a Corridor Gang I did. I'm not going to do that in this case, they're going to be built as one, but I really do like how Necromunda sprues do that, which is great. Standard Warlock sprue, okay. So we have 2 standard Warlock sprues from 4 years ago. Again, that's slightly disappointing because the artwork pictures, you've got guys in rebreathers with masks on and, you know, ash wasty, yet we haven't got anything ash wasty on these sprues. Now I have seen on the community site they're going to do an upgrade pack with the heads and things that have got different masks and stuff on. Now my assumption was that was going to be in this box, so you could make these ash wasty. Now to me, to make these fit into ash wastes, you're going to end up having to wait to that release to build them. Again, another slight missed opportunity really, I think. And then the Buggies, this is obviously what a lot of people are after, which is the distinctly different thing that's about this release, which I think is great. From what I've seen them built up, and obviously I'll build them, very Necromunda-esque Buggies. And also what's really good is it fits in with the range of Buggies you can get for Gene Stealer, Cult, that kind of thing, so you can easily kit bash up your own. Great. Templates, we all love a good template. And a nice card divider. Now, again, these are only to protect the books underneath, but I do like that this is something that they do. So, you know, yeah, nice, welcome. Just a nice bit of stuff just to be in there. Get rid of that onto the floor. Okay, gaming mat. Alright, not a card mat, obviously. That's fine. Let's see what this is made out of. I hope this is not paper or very skinny cardboard, although it does say fold out light card floor. Okay, it's more of a vinyl paper type thing. Ah, disappointing, lazy, this one. 50-50 this box so far. I like the printing, I like the artwork on it, but I do find when you get these paper mats, they never sit quite flush on your table. Why not do it with a nice hard weight card like we had, you know, like we had in the Kill Team box set, where it was a multi-fold card? Because this, not being funny, is never ever ever going to fold flat for you to play on, and it's always going to look like a folded piece of paper. That's lazy. That's a missed opportunity. Now I know what people will say is, oh, it's cheap, and it is cheap. Look, it's fine. I mean, there's nothing wrong with you using this, and as a gaming surface, great. But this again feels like a bit of a missed opportunity to make it with the folded multi-part card. Now it's a good size, folding it out, this looks like it's going to be 3x3, which it is. Obviously it's not going to be seeable on camera, but and I like the printing. Do you know what? The printing and the pictures and the detail and stuff on it is great. However, the fact they've made it out of foldable paper, I just think is a missed opportunity and a little bit lazy. You know, one of the best things about the original Necromunda Underhive box was the card tiles, really good quality, really good printing. This feels like they've cut a bit of a corner. Now I know obviously the more they put in, the more cost is going to be. Now the cost of this box, it would have almost been worth an extra tenner to have, you know, some faces and different gas masks to go on the Warlock sprue, and just a better quality board, I think. Nice chunky instructions. Obviously I'll feed back near the end of the video what we should be doing. No, I don't think I was due another roof, because there's a panel there with a base unit with something that isn't roofed. So I don't think I'm missing a sprue. I think we're all looking all good there for how many of these buildings there should be, so that's fine. We'll see. And in the book, what I'll do is I'll finish the rest of the box, and then we'll dig in and zoom a bit closer and get a close-up look at the book. But a nice chunky hardback rulebook, and that really matters in terms of the quality feel of the game box, really, that you get a solid book rather than these, you know, the small A5 books that they had a tendency of doing for a while. That I think has lessened the quality. So really happy with the size of the book. We'll see what the contents are in a bit. And then again, a really nice card divider with some nice artwork on. I really am enjoying the artwork for you know, the ash waste. It's pretty good. Bases, great, good. That's all right. a nice chunk of cards. We'll dig into these again in a bit. We'll do a separate book section. All your bases, more dice. Now, the dice, what's interesting is there are some pieces on here that are not obviously normal to Necromunda dice. Now, these are clearly going to be whatever the vehicle activations are, whatever these things mean, turns and things. I'm sure we're going to see that when we dig in a little bit into the rules. And then a very nice little measuring ruler. Great. So what we'll do is now I'll reassemble this box set. You'll see these pieces again when I come to build them at the end, and then we'll get a bit of a closer look into the book. Take a look at the cards and the actual rule book that we've got. So a chunky set of cards there. I do love the Necromunda cards, it must be said. I do pick up every set, even if I don't necessarily remember to use them in game. I think that's a common thing that we forget to use the cards. But we'll see what we get into if I can. Okay, and they look divided up into a couple of different types. Yes, so we've got blank gang cards, always useful. That's a nice little add-in, and hopefully they're giving you enough to use for both gangs. So really good, not branded with any gang affiliation or anything like you get the separate cards. And is the 20 in there? Probably. We'll look at them closer later. Tactics cards. Ooh, Ash Waste Trade Route, that's something new. So tactics cards, I imagine these are going to be broken down into... Oh no, these are not gang related ones, which obviously they come out next week. I've just advance ordered those today. Came out a week later for some reason for the 2 individual gangs. But these are just generic Ash Waste tactics, which is really good. And then obviously the expansion will come. So ramming speed. Play this tactic after a friendly vehicle has had a head-on collision with an enemy vehicle before determining the strength of the hit. Excellent. Increase the strength, AP and damage of the hit by 1. So obviously ramming and those kind of things is going to be in there. Nitro cells overloads. You can obviously have some sort of nitro, belching smoke. Always carry a spare. Lots of interesting different cards. Always exciting to dig through and sort of realise what your extra tactics are going to be. Trade route cards, Ash Waste campaign cards. Now obviously if you want a full breakdown of what these do and how they're used, etc, etc, you need to watch a channel that isn't mine because I haven't got a single clue about how specifically these are going to be used. They're obviously going to be used generically like all the Necromunda cards are, but in terms of how it breaks down into Ash Waste, I am only going to do a flick through this very briefly now. So don't expect any kind of massive rules insight. This is going to be first look and just my thoughts of what leaps into my head. So different trade routes. Oil Slick Run. Oh, interesting. Trading bonus had tech credits. Obviously the trade routes you establish in Ash Waste must be what you do instead of territory, I would imagine, or maybe added onto. Spire Straight, Beaten Path, Crater Run. Please tell me there's like Banetown Road or something like that. Or Road. So it's all different obviously routes that you take. What it gives you in terms of your stash, your trading. Excellent. It's a different way of obviously getting territory. Campaign cards. And this is all obviously the bulk of that here. So again, road sections. This must be something to do with how you do the scenario and what you get. Unsanctioned. Okay, there's interesting little stamp marks on a few of these. Okay, so trade routes, road sections. This must be territory cards. See, making things up as I go along, no idea. I'm sure we might see some more later. We'll put that to one side. So now into the main book itself. And again, this is a nice weighty book. All the usual markers that you would pick up in standard Necromunda, although some different symbology and pictures and things. Let's get in without slashing into the book, obviously. Now, I did say there was going to be some plastic we're going to be wasting in this. Obviously, the actual box is nicely thinking about the environment. The books never are. Oh yeah, look, damage. These are the new ones that said around here. So we've got damaged vehicle bits, drunk driver tokens, whatever they are, all the gas and the usual tokens. I'm sure we'll see what these do later. Nice reference sheet. Always love a good reference sheet. It definitely speeds the game up when you're playing it, and really can do that. So I'll pause it under this. If you want, you could pause and have a read of what this is, and it'll probably give you a really good sense of what the actual rules are. Oh, so good. Body damage table, engine, crew damage. going back to how vehicles used to be in proper 40k a number of years ago, and obviously now bringing that into Warhammer, which is great. So a little bit on some of the obviously vehicle rules and how it adds in, so great. So we'll go through the rulebook again. I'll try not to take too long on this. I don't want it to be too long a video, but I will flick through the majority of pages and we'll see. Oh, that's nice artwork. So that's a totally different start to the book, obviously showing you the spire of Hive Primus, I imagine, from the outside. Very nice, very evocative. You always think, and obviously crossing IPs is not Games Workshop thing, obviously, but you always start to think, you know, Judge Dredd, Cursed Earth, and that was always the vibe they went for. And here you've got the Nomads showing there, and some of the background. So it's nice, actually. It's a different start because it's not going straight into, you know, here's the hive. It's focusing on clearly the wastes. Very, very evocative pictures. The artwork in any Games Workshop book, to be fair, for a long time has been fantastic. Slate Medina. Right, I'm going to pause and just quickly jump to my cabinet because I have him in my Warlock gang. Okay, so this is kind of cool. Actually, obviously, they're introducing the characters that were mentioned as the Warlocks were the road gangs. They ran the transport through the wastes. And this is Slate Medina, which I haven't got any good light on, so let's try and put a bit of light so you can see him. I'm trying to get too much reflection on the book. So this is obviously the Forge World model. Now, I painted this up as part of my Warlock gang, which there is a video on the channel if you want to have a look at what I did. Now, I established my Warlock gang kind of knowing that this book was coming as the kind of road gang type people, and the scenery I've been building for Necromunda. I've done 3 tiles so far, 2 foot by 1 foot and 2 1-foot square ones. And the idea is going to be like a rail yard, so it's geared around the entrance into the hive where there's an internal railway to move goods and things, and I'm going to try and combine this gang into the ash wastes and really try and bring some scenery builds and those kind of things in as well. So that's quite exciting that obviously they're dropping him in. It's very interesting. I'll give you some information. Cinderak, sorry, not Cindertrack, there's no T in there. Cinderak crater, Cinderak city. The largest settlement in the waste, Cinderak City, is a meeting point in the middle of the great equatorial wastes. Excellent. So they are talking about the settlements and the things going on in the wastes. It is within the hives. The 6 great clan houses in Necromunda are active within the wastelands. These are the workers of the world, the people overseeing the production of everything that is manufactured. So they have strongholds out in there. So each of the clan houses had a stronghold either inside the walls of Cinderak City or nearby in the wastes. So there's the justification for these clans being out in the waste. So good that we've sort of built that in. So it covers a little bit on how every single gang that's existing already is going to be out there, even, you know, the cults. Prospectors. Now, if you've been watching what's been going on online, you know that they've got the squat prospectors already, so that's getting very exciting, bringing squats back in. Really, yeah, great. And a really nice bit of artwork. So we've got here obviously the Hive Primus, similar artwork, but on a slightly different sort of slant, I suppose, because it's giving you some of these settlements that are out in the waste. So if I can spot this Cinderak place, if not, obviously we'll find it elsewhere. But really interesting, they've got those in there. Information about the deep wastes. Gaze of Lord Helmar sees all that transpires on the surface of Necromunda. So even in the ash wastes there's much apart, but the deep wastes you can't see. So very interesting. So it tells you what the box content, the ash waste box. That's a little bit irrelevant. I'm not, because if you bought this, if you bought the box, you've got the book, you know what the contents are. If you buy the book separate, which I'm sure is going to be available, do you really need to know what the box contents are? That's a little strange. But very nice artwork. Now I've got the box, very pretty. Yeah, there's no problem with being in there. It's just a little bit of a strange thing to drop in. Same sort of explanations as you get in the other book about how we're doing it. The general principles of movement, measuring, those kind of things. And here's the difference. So fighter vision arcs, we obviously know they're the same. Vehicle vision arcs. So they're just dropping in the additional rules as we go through. Bits on cover, partial cover. Now the rolling dice and terrain seems essentially the same. So this looks like an altered rulebook. You know, I think that's the piece, isn't it? It's not a brand new game system. This is an alteration to there. But vehicles and conditions, there are a huge number of conditions in Necromunda. Unless stated otherwise, they do not affect vehicles at all. Okay, so that's interesting. But it says there, Blaze, how it affects a model depends on the fighter or vehicle. So fighter, and vehicle. So a vehicle being on fire effects. So that's quite interesting how they've mentioned that. Lovely artwork again, absolutely lovely. So gang fighters and weaponry, so it goes through fighter characteristic profiles. Again, this is all very similar. Let's see if it's got, it's not overly good quality control there. Glue in the middle of it. Okay, and then it gives us a right on the important one as well. That's ironic, isn't it? The damage is exactly where it's important. Vehicle characteristic profiles. So each vehicle has a characteristic profile which detailed. Here is the profile for an ash rig, so we can see what the ash rigs are going to be doing when they come up. So toughness, front, side and rear. Obviously facings matter. Hit points, whatever that is, I skipped past it. Hull points, that's HP. All shown as above. Save, ballistic skill, handling, so HND. Are shown as target numbers followed by a plus, so that's the new statistic. In addition, a vehicle has 4 psychology characteristics, just like a fighter. Leadership, cool, willpower, intelligence. Represents the psychological traits of the crew. So that's good, and you can up and down, and there we go. So handling, which is a new stat, how manoeuvrable a vehicle is and how responsive it is to crew's command. To avoid damage from dangerous terrain, very exciting. Determine success when a vehicle attempts to ram an enemy vehicle. Excellent. Looking forward to that, and I would imagine the handling is obviously better on the smaller vehicles and whatever, because a big truck trying to ram someone, probably not going to happen. Fighter cards and vehicle cards. So actually, are these vehicle cards? Because obviously I looked at that and it's fighter cards. Yeah, and some vehicle cards. So mostly fighter cards in here with a few vehicle cards at the back. So good. Again, all full details for that. And how to found a gang. Excellent. Gives you the details on skirmish play, gang composition, how we equip vehicles, so they can be equipped with a wide variety of weapons, war gear and upgrades as you would expect from anyone else. That's really good. And this is all the same. I mean, to be fair, this looks exactly the same as the previous books, just with vehicles dropped in. So I won't dwell on this. If you want, you know, you can pause and check through it. I'm sure I'll talk about it. But in general, this is a very nice book. Follows the flow really exactly of the previous rule books. Talks about, you know, broken fighters, facings, those kind of things, and then drops in the vehicle bit. So vehicle action, I think this is what we're really looking at, isn't it? So mobile vehicles can perform a wide range of actions. So move, so it's simple, move in a straight line, make a single pivot, cross any gap between two platforms. Interesting, there's no widen the length of the vehicle, so that can do a simple maneuver. Can do each of the following: move in a straight line forwards or backwards, a distance up to half its movement, make any number of pivots around its centre, up to 90, across certain terrain. Okay, that's interesting. Move and shoot, basic. Okay, fairly similar. It can reload, aim, drift. Okay, move half its movement characteristic in a straight line, anywhere in its side arc. Okay, in its side arc, very interesting. Once you finish the move, make a loss of control test. All right. Ram, so it goes super fast. Can spin. Oh, that's good. So it can turn 180 instead of 90. But take a loss of control test. So page 92. When we get to page 92, we're going to have to see that. Full throttle double. Very interesting. So you can be stationary or stalled. Engine can turn over. There's obviously a few different about when we get to stationary and stalled vehicles. So that's quite interesting. Freewheel. Driver release the brakes, letting gravity pull the vehicle. Moves as if making a move action. Only move D6. An additional vehicle naturally follows the incline of the battlefield. Roll the D6. The 1 to 3 moves forwards. 4 to 6 moves backwards. I like the random impact of that. I think that's really good. Different vehicle impacts. Running over fighters. If a vehicle comes into contact with a fighter's base, the fighter is moved by the smallest amount possible to allow the vehicle to pass, ensuring the fighter doesn't end up within 1 inch of the vehicle. Once the vehicle's movement is completed, make an initiative check for each standing or prone and pinned fighter, applying a +1 modifier to a fighter who is standing. If the fighter is seriously injured, they'll pass the check on a natural roll of 6. Checks passed and move out of the way. If it's failed, they become prone and pinned and suffer an automatic hit. Excellent. So there is running people over. That's what we want. Head-on vehicle collisions. Excellent. So if during the course of its movement, a vehicle's front arc makes contact with any part of another vehicle, a head-on collision has occurred. You compare toughness. Side-on collisions. Oh, beautiful. Going to be lots like that. It's possible, some might say likely, that a chain reaction of collisions may occur as vehicles push each other into rocky outcrops and other battlefield features. Amazing. So obviously they're planning for that, and what people are going to do is literally try ramming speed all the time. Now, ash waste terrain. Ramps and walkways count as open terrain, okay. Not considered part of battlefield surface. Ladders, yeah, we know this is standard Necromunda rules. Railings, stop from falling, that's again in the rules already when you take your test. Railing nearby generally adds to your initiative and you don't fall. Steps, doors, yeah, that's fine. Okay, that says that you can interact and use operate door, so does that mean there's going to be blockers to put in the doorway? We'll see, I guess. Shooting, making a hit roll, becoming pinned and things looks the same. Firepower, flame templates, all those are quite good. Close combat looks the same, although I'm sure vehicles is going to be different. Attacking vehicles, yeah. Vehicle is in an inch of a vehicle counts as being engaged with that vehicle and make close combat attacks against it, but they can freely move around on the vehicle or away from it without being disengaged. Okay, so slightly different, but looks very similar, and there's going to be obviously rules about how it gets allocated. Okay, damage and things. Right, resolving hits against vehicles. I'm just really looking for what's different, so that, you know, this has already been 15 minutes talking about a book and some cards already, so it won't be too long. But make it, here we go, location dice. Right, special dice used to determine the exact location of a hit suffered by a vehicle. Excellent, so this tells you what you are fighting and what you're damaging. That's the difference, and obviously the wound rolls and things will be slightly different as well. And we've seen this already on the reference sheet, body damage, crew damage, and that's all very interesting, and that's really what you want, you know. So here, driver blacks out and loses control. Really got to see what a loss of control test is on 92, we're coming up to that. And again, lasting damage, injured crew, exactly the same as a normal campaign as how you would expect. So loss of control. Loss of control test is failed, so loss of control, make a handling check. Oh, we've seen that before, so you do that. Loss of control test is failed, vehicles controlling player rolls a d6 and the control dice. If a swerve is rolled, so we've seen these control dice there, we saw this, swerve, jackknife or roll. So the vehicle, you can flip it over by the force of the impact. I really like the idea of that, so I'm imagining in some of these here, oh yeah, you see there's the engine damage, stutters, become stationary installed. We briefly looked at that, you have to restart your engine and things. You hit a tyre and blow out a vehicle, loses a whole point and it suffers -1 on handling tests, and you immediately make a loss of control test. So a loss of control test, quite critical if you manage to force that, I suppose, on there, because you could flip your vehicle, probably not a lot of chance of it, or again lose control and go in different angles. So very interesting element of rules, going back very much to the early editions of 40k, how vehicles behaved. So really, really good. End phase, recover, restarts, lovely artwork again. Should we quickly show my Cawdor little war dog for the gang? Excellent, we like them. And all this looks like post-battle things there. Yeah, equipment, it's all kind of the same, gaining experience. So it just looks like tweaks, but very nice. Psychers in Necromunda, obviously we've seen this is existent rules, so just being dropped in. How to run a campaign. The best part about Necromunda is running campaigns, advancing your gangs. Oh, look at that, that's the artwork for the new, obviously, Ashways Hall that's coming out. Beautiful model, seen it already, very, very nice. Again, here's the trade routes. So these are obviously the cards that relate to those trade routes we saw earlier, give you a bit of, you know, the trade routes there. And then you've got Ashway's road section, which obviously is an unsanctioned road section, as I said before. So this is your territory equivalents. How to claim a trade route. So trade routes, road sections, different things, so that's fine. Look, to create a trade route between two fixed locations, a gang must control an unbroken chain of road sections that list the locations. Got you. So you capture these territories, you can then create that trade route with the trade route cards, and they're going to generate a lot more money. Excellent, like that. Campaign running. This is, again, will take a lot of digging into, not something I can cover on this video. Look at that. Battles in the Ash Waste, generating conditions, different regions, similar. Lovely, lovely. Keep saying the same things. Let's keep flicking. Looking forward to playing some of these games. Scenarios. Oh, okay. Zone Mortalis. So this is a general scenario bit. Zone multi-dice battles are claustrophobic and dangerous affairs fought in cramped, narrow corridors. So we know this. Zone multi-dice battles. So actually, you can bring Ash Waste into this. Fair enough. Sector Mechanicus. All right. Okay. Well, fair enough. We'll skip through this. Loot Caskets, Beast Layer, all that. That's fine. Dust Bowl Skirmish. And this is the set up the terrain supplied as on page 133. So we've seen that already. Looter scenario, and these are your Ash Wastes ones. Fuel Hunt. Excellent. And then it says here, set up the battlefield described on battlefield setup section in 133. So these are all your Ash Waste scenarios. A lot of scenarios to really get your head around in here, which will be exciting to do this. So it's really good. Now, some of these scenery, like I've said it before, the scenery that comes with the set, really, really nice, and reminds me very much of some of the stuff I did very early on in my channel's life, which I'll talk about when we're doing the actual figure build. Very nice. Ash Waste scenario. Cargo run. Oh, you're just going to have to buy a cargo hauler for that, I'm fairly sure. I'm looking at the bug pieces. Okay, so we're nearly through. Now what's interesting is no statistics for any of the gangs that are in that box set. At all. So, unless I've absolutely missed something, I'm not playing a game until the books for these individual gangs come out. All skills and statistics, that's great, really, really good. Gang tactics, obviously we've got the cards for it, and just some pictures and very, very nice models. Yeah, got no idea what these do, not seen a stat line for them, unless again I've missed something, so if I have I'll comment at the end if I do manage to notice it. And then the Warlock Raid Gang, excellent. In general though, very, very nice rulebook. I liked that, I liked the run through, but it is a pure rulebook with no rules in it, more in the vein of what you do with say a 40k rulebook where you have to have the codex to use the gang, which is all well and good. I get that, that's how we go, but they are missing almost a sheet that gives you almost starter rules. So unless that's on that paper sheet, we'll see in a minute. So next is just I'm going to quickly build the models, and then we'll see what's next. Okay, so I clearly got a bit giddy and carried away when I was flicking through and didn't notice that the Ash Waste construction guide also includes your gang lists. So these are your introductory gang lists so that you don't have to get the individual books when you first pick up the box set. So that's good, that's what we want to see. So it says here, obviously there's normal gang list and there's the extras that you don't get in the normal Warlock book. So the Outrider Quad, that's the crew stats, because obviously the crew are built into the vehicle, I think as we've mentioned before probably. So a decent set of statistics there, different toughnesses at front, side and rear. Obviously we've seen those arcs and how it damages and things, so that's really good. And then onto the Nomad Gang list. This is what's interesting, Nomad Dust Rider, who's the prospect, and his war gear is a Dustback Hellamite, which is interesting. So let's see what these Dustback Hellamites actually do, if we've got them somewhere. Where does it say? Dustback Hellamite. While equipped with a Dustback Hellamite, a fight against a mountain condition and all its associated rules in addition, increase the movement to 8 and the fight against the Mighty Leap skill. That's very interesting. So the actual creature, you're not going to be attacking, but it's just a bit of war gear. That's an interesting way of dealing with that. I think it makes sense. And then you get your weapon traits and everything at the back here for all the weapons that are in the box. So yeah, pretty good. Let's get into building the models. So I'm not going to go through a full guide of how to build these models, because look, building a model in this video is already more than long enough. Just some general commentary. Building the Dustback Hellamites, look really nice. They go well together, they are good, but they've come across the typical Games Workshop numbering issue where they've got a couple of the numbers wrong on the build instruction versus what's on the sprue. Now if you're using obviously only 2 sprues, you've only got a couple to look through, it's not going to be too difficult to notice where they've made those numbering issues, but just take a little bit of care, because if you go on pure numbers, the sort of back part that you see me assembling now is referred to by 2 different numbers, and it's 1 number on the sprue, so just be aware of that when you're building. And I think that's a common pattern really with a lot of workshop instructions lately. Is it acceptable? Not really, but then again, it's just one of those things, I suppose. If they were to, I suppose, quality check every single build instruction, they'd probably charge us even more. So yeah, just beware of that when you're building it. And I would say the same thing with the other kits. Now with all the kits, I'd say there's just about the right amount of pieces on these to give variance and posing and those kind of things, but without being too long to build. I think I'll refer to it later, but this build I did very late Saturday night and very early Sunday morning to build most of the figures, as you'll see later on. So they're not super complicated, they don't take too much time, but again they are good and posable and just a little bit different from each other. Now the beauty of Necromunda kits, I've said it multiple times, is you get the same model on there and you get the weapon options on the sprue to do either of the build choices. So you're going to end up with a lot of spares from this kit, and I love that. Great for future kit bashing, etc., especially with a game like Ash Wastes where we're going to be building vehicles and things. There's going to be lots of extra weaponry equipment that can be bolted all over these vehicles when you finally come to make them. My favourite part about the Ash Waste Nomads in particular is the end of the instructions. Although they miss a couple of bodies out and it's not over clear, but the end of the instructions is you build the torsos and then you basically put the back banners and the arms and things on in a manner of your choosing, and I think that's great. That's a really good way of making your kit customizable. Just watch kind of what you're putting on there. All the kits were nice put together, no real errors and arms that wouldn't fit or anything like that. They do get on some kits, so definitely good, definitely worthwhile. Yeah, loved the build. And that extends as well to the vehicles. Again, nice clear instructions, go together really well. I can easily see that the vehicle kits can be used to kit bash into, I've said before, Genestealer cult models, those kind of things. I could definitely see that being a thing. And it would be very easy as well to adapt the Warlock vehicles to other gangs. I'm sure there's going to be other gang vehicles coming out. Obviously, they're bound to have, I would imagine, flying vehicles for Vansar, that type of thing coming up, but would easily be adaptable at the moment if that is particularly what you wanted to do. And moving on to the last kind of part of the build I did, which was the buildings. Building sprues, real chunky, thick, nice buildings. Again, simple build instructions with enough options to give you some interest, but also actually with what looks like it's going to be a lot of nice spare parts to build maybe some scatter terrain and those kind of things to really make your Ash Waste boards come to life. You can see there's going to be a lot of spare parts here. Very good terrain, very impressed with how these terrain pieces have come across. So all in all, the actual build process, really loved it. I haven't finished building the terrain, so I will be continuing that build and obviously painting them up at some point, but yeah, really happy with all elements of that kind of process. Let's look through some of the finished articles. I think these are the standout pieces in the boxes, obviously Dustback Hellamites as they're called. 4 options in there, very nice to put together, lovely models, a really good size when we compare them to the standard figure. Good size base, going to make some interesting if you want to do some pieces of scenery, or you could just leave them very plain at the bottom in the Ash Waste, but very, very nice models to go together. Lots of options, and you'd obviously come out with a lot of spares that you could use in other conversions and that type of thing. So the Hellamites have gone together really nicely in terms of the build process. A couple of numbering issues with some of the pieces not being numbered correctly on the instructions, but that's fairly typical Games Workshop in the last couple of years, so as long as you pay attention to what you're doing, that's kind of fine. But they are very, very nice models. Heartily recommend them in terms of the build process, and obviously I'll be painting these eventually on the channel as well, so keep an eye out for that one. Now the Nomads themselves, the leader figure, absolutely, I just built these models exactly as the instructions showed, not a lot of conversion work or anything, but very, very nice, evocative miniatures. And what is nice when you look at the, I suppose, bodies, you end up with the same bodies. This is the same body but put together 2 different ways. Now, there are obviously some similarities, but the extra pieces you put on top changes it enough to not look like you're doing too much repetition. And when you get to the final build stages, it tells you to build the bodies and then put on the optional arms wherever you feel like it. So you can really make some variety, even though essentially at a core the bodies are the same. For me, the hand weapons they're using there, which have obviously got a little bit of welded on extras and things, really, really nice. The blast rifles, it's just everything. Very, very kind of in keeping with the Ash Wastes kind of symbology and vision that you would see. So beautiful figures all around. And just show you the matching pairs every time, just to show you how you can put these things together differently. And that's the thing I would say when you're building it, just watch that you are putting different pieces on different ones. What you don't want to do is put, the same heads or the same back banners or whatever onto the same models, because then you will end up making them look very similar. You have no choice with some of these back pieces, but obviously you can paint them in different cloth. And again, I'll be doing a painting thing on the channel. So lovely, lovely models. I'm really impressed. They went together really nicely. No real complaints around them there, and lots of spares you're going to be left with at the end. So now the Buggies, so with the Warlocks, again, went together very, very nicely. The only thing I would say about these is when you put on the additional pieces at the end, you get the same pistol in its little holster to go there. Now, I didn't put it on this one because he's obviously shooting, and I didn't want them to look exactly the same with exactly the same sort of options on. So I only put one pack on that side, not on here, just to make them look a little bit differently. Different heads, different things on each, and obviously how we paint them up is going to matter, but some more spares would have been nice. You get options on this side, so for some strange reason, this kind of fender or wing here, there's two different things you can glue on there, but all the other ones are the same. I know you obviously could use this on that side and that type of thing, but a couple of other options would have been a little bit nicer, but very, very nice models. And again, looking forward to painting them. Now, I've only built one of the building structures at the moment, mostly because this, obviously, I didn't get this any earlier than anyone else. I bought this with my own money from my friendly local gaming store, and I've put them together on very late Saturday night and super early Sunday morning, so I only had time to build one building. Now I picked this one as it's the open topped one. You get an idea of the height and the scale, because obviously the sides of the enclosed habs go here. Again, in terms of the build process, very nice to build, very clear instructions, very chunky. One of the worries I had when I first saw this set was how fragile is this going to be, but it's not at all. It's a real solid, chunky piece of scenery, and actually will fill a board really well because you get multiple of this larger size. Obviously you only get one open, but then you get some smaller size platforms as well. Now obviously I've gone through the instructions and I know what I'm doing. This one here makes some smaller size platforms. So you're going to have multi-levels, which is really nice, and some really big scenery. So very impressed with that scenery all in actually, and it's going to work really well when it's all put together. And obviously you get an idea of the scale when you put a standard infantryman next to it. So very, very impressed with this scenery. So in terms of summarising up, that's the end of the build piece. I'll put some nice swirly shots and summarise what my thoughts are on the box altogether. So my final thoughts, showing you some of the models that I've built and now ready. A massive letdown with the paper scenery you get, the folds, the creases and things. It's horrible. Should have put a better scenery board in there. Standard Warlock sprue is a letdown. Would have been great to have had some proper masked up faces as an extra sprue that we know are coming. Big letdown by the scatter terrain that's gone in there, that again is from the old Necromunda box. Apart from that though, this box is nearly perfect. It's a brilliant box. I love all the other elements of it. So close to perfect. Definitely glad I picked it up, and look at the channel for more stuff coming. Thanks everybody.